Once again, thanks so much for joining us for joining Recharge by Mednefits episode 2. And we will be exploring more on employees' perspective on company culture and how that would actually affect some of the HR strategies as well. So Recharge by Mednefits is actually a series that we have created to kind of discuss and talk about HR related topics in a more digestible format, in a more chiller setting. And together with me, I'm Xiangling, by the way, a customer success manager of Mednefits. And together with me is the account manager of Mednefits, Brian, who is also my co-host. Hello, Brian.
Hi, guys. Hi, Xiangling. So, like Xiangling introduced, I am the account manager. My name is Brian, and welcome to Recharge. So, like Xiangling shared, it's a platform we created for HRs to come together to recharge with us, and of course to discuss some relatively drier topics, right, in a much more fun and lighthearted perspective. So for all of you guys who are with us in Zoom right now, thank you so much for being a part of our second episode. Right, we're really new to this, so thanks for being here with us. And then for the people on Facebook, we see you and we hear you, so feel free to drop us any questions. And if you want to find out more after this session, there is a QR code that you can see at the back of our heads, somewhere on the left or right. You can just scan the QR code and then you can get in contact with any of our team members from there. Anyway, speaking of being back to work and all that stuff, I heard you were in KL recently, right?
Yes, I was. I heard you're in KL as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Really? Wait, did I hear KL?
Yes. We did.
Yeah.
What did you do there?
So we went to cafes. Well, personally, I went to cafes, and just to let you know, KL has really good cafe culture.
yeah.
And speaking of KL, the person who just joined us earlier is also from KL. So gonna introduce our KL customer of Mednefits. So she is the people lead of Human Inc. We have Sarah Wong today joining us as our guest. Hello, Sarah.
Hi everyone. I was just so sensitive to the word of KL because I'm born and raised in KL. So yeah, my hometown. So yeah, thanks so much everyone for actually having me in this call. Super excited to have a conversation with all of you, even including the listeners. So feel free to drop your question in and we have a discussion here. So yeah, happy to be here.
Thanks, Sarah. So very looking forward to exploring more on the topic of company culture with actual HR. But before we start, do you want to also talk about what you do at Human Inc. as well?
Yeah, happy to. So my name is Sarah and I'm currently the people lead at Human Inc. We are an innovation consulting firm based in Kuala Lumpur, but we serve our clients throughout the whole world. Our team is really, really diverse. So we work with all the corporates around the world, to help them to solve their issues with culture, with their innovation capabilities to upskill their employees. And for me, particularly, I work in the HR team. The fun fact is my function is only very small, so I'm the only one. So I look after from the end-to-end HR spectrum from recruitment, employee engagement, and also culture. Probably a fun fact is this is my first HR specific role because I'm not from the HR background. So I think in this session, it will be really interesting because I'm coming in as both sides, my own experience as an employee back then and also right now in HR. So yeah, I'm really excited about this.
Thanks for sharing, Sarah. So you mentioned something quite interesting. So you're actually quite new to the HR role. And perhaps you could share a little bit about some of your learnings from other HRs and maybe some key takeaways you have.
Yeah, so I joined this role as in HR, which is in such an interesting time during COVID. And I spoke to a lot of people. They were like, "Oh, such a bad time to join HR." Few reasons is number one, the economy wasn't doing really well globally, and then there will be retrenchment. So we need to actually handle those kind of difficult conversations. Hiring, then it's also another challenges that we actually was facing because great resignation happening around, and then how then as a HR, how can we actually change our strategy around? And then I would say third thing is because of the COVID situation, people also start to look into their life very differently. People reprioritize what is important to them in life. So when we talk about maybe some of them would prefer staying at home more now these days. And so how does that then inform our strategy in the company to maybe like number one is attract new talent, retain the current employees? I think like, maybe Xiangling and also Brian were able to share like based on your experience in changing job during the COVID time as well. Maybe some of the listener is also having this kind of situation. Then we'd love to also hear from all of you. How did you figure out and reprioritize in terms of when it comes to find new job, right? So yeah, maybe I would like to actually bounce back. The question is, what does then like when it comes to culture, what does culture mean to both of you then, for Brian and Xiangling?
Wow, this is Sarah throwing the question to us. Perhaps I can start first, and then so for me, culture is actually quite simple. It's a combination of two things, right? So there's one, it's a translation of company culture from their values into actionables, and two, it's the employees' reaction to these actionables. So from what I see, and also like as part of being an employee as well, HRs need to understand that they are the influencers of company culture. And I know that Sarah, as a HR, you have always been really pushing for that culture as well. Even featuring your HR interns in your company posts and things like that. Make it a little bit more fun, right? So and also reflect on the company's value. So employees will still add in some of their own culture from time to time. Some like written and unwritten rules of workplace, and that has really changed as well with like the Great Resignation that we also explored in episode 1. Throwing a plug in there, but yeah, that's just from my perspective. What about you, Brian?
For myself, I think culture is really important to any organization, and especially in this day and age, right? I think culture itself forms a part of organizational identity. Always nowadays, I mean, at least from my personal experience and working with all the different companies that we manage over the last year, I think we hear a lot of discussions between employees, and it's more than just a good paycheck and reasonable working hours nowadays. Now it's really more about things like whether I can strike a good work-life balance, whether I'm getting good benefits, and that employees start to become a bit more wise about these things. They start to know what they want more, and they look up for these things. They pay a lot more attention to these things as compared to, I would say, maybe in the past, where employees are really just looking for a job that pays them well, and they will just put in the hours and like work until like they are ready to retire, that kind of thing. Yeah, so I just feel like culture is so important because it kind of shapes an employee's experience with the company for that however limited amount of time they'll be with the company. And I think it's crucial for every company to have their own culture. So since you threw a question back at us, I'm going to throw a question back to you, Sarah.
Sure.
So I wanted to find out from you as well, like because you did share with us, you did a transition of a role as well, right? And so maybe you could share a little with us, like in terms of the shift, right? Was it what was the difference like, shifting from where you were and where you are now, like and did you shape your because right now you're the people lead at Human Inc. So did you actually shape the current culture, or I would say the identity at Human Inc. based on your experience at your previous role?
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone, maybe just remove myself from the people lead, but anyone that would join a new company will definitely bring in something that they have, experienced before, regardless good or bad. I would just make it generalized in that way, right? So for me personally, maybe I experienced both in the government agency, because that's where I started my career in. Like in Malaysia, government agency is very maybe like one kind of culture because of the population that we have. And then that's where then I moved on to an American-based co-working space, which I actually met Xiangling there. It's WeWork, which is a very international organization, and it's a large scale. We are looking at like 10,000 people all around the world. But I was based in KL, so somewhat the culture managed to trickle down to all the local offices. And that's where I got to have experienced like such a big shift, I think the first shift was very, very much on decision making. So I still remember there's one time I went to WeWork, which is a bit more modern kind of culture. And I asked the colleague, can I go for my lunch now? And then the colleague was like, why are you asking me? And I'm like, oh, because so used to asking for approvals in my first job. And that's where I came from. Like as little things like this, I think it makes so much difference in terms of, you know, the way that you engage with people and the mindset that you have. So with both scenario that I was experiencing, I kind of like, you know, came into Human Inc. But I think the good side is Human Inc. has already their own good culture in a way. So there wasn't a lot of transformation that it's needed, but it's just maybe amplifying some of the good culture that we have. So for example, we used to, before MCO, we used to have every Monday everyone come together to have something called Week Start, where we share about what did you do over the weekend and also what's your focus for the week. And that's the whole organization-wide kind of touch point. And then on Friday, it's a day that everyone will close down the week. And so, you know, people will get together, playing some games or some learning reflection of that week. So that was actually really nice. And we kind of like continue that. So I do see a little bit of connection in that way. And also we kind of bring in a more one-on-one session as well, because that's something that I learned back then in my second job instead of my first job. So yeah, all these kind of little things actually makes a lot of difference. Of course, it comes down to what is the culture that the organization wants to build, because maybe what I wanted to build can be very different from what the leadership team of another company, right? Like maybe Mednefits, you know, the culture and my culture can be very different, even though we are from the kind of like same size of the organization. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. We actually did talk about, like, I guess, the one-on-ones when we were talking about our first episode with Decode HR. So they brought up a very good point on like how leadership can actually listen to their employees better through this one-on-one, right, Brian? So we actually have, so for those who have attended this RZP for this session, we actually do have a pre-session form for anyone to put in their perspective on what they feel about their own company culture right now. And one of the responses that came in, and Sarah, I'd like to hear a little bit more about this as well, on what are your opinions. But the person wrote that in today's dynamic workforce culture, it's common to see, you know, like a workforce that is not only just looking for a way to make a living, but also for growth and opportunity to shine and excel, to have areas for employees to have their own decision making. So just now you actually shared, you know, there's always avenues for one-on-ones and, you know, opportunities to be listened. How do you feel that has really impact on employees' like well-being in an organization?
I think when you maybe separate into like employee well-being itself, I guess well-being comes in like psychological safety, mental well-being, physically well-being. There's a lot of component that we can think from that angle. I guess having space like one-on-one, it definitely check the psychological safety. But of course, as maybe like a HR person, or if you are really passionate about culture, please also do step in, maybe run some manager kind of like training to teach them how to actually create psychological safety even during one-on-one. Because if, let's say, you can have one-on-one, but you're not giving any instruction or any guidelines in terms of like how to do it, then it will be ruined in any case, right? Especially if, let's say, you have such a big organization, you have thousands of people, maybe you have 500 of them are managers. And that's where probably you need to actually put in some guidelines in terms of, okay, so what does one-on-one means to your company? That's number one. Number two is like, what do you cover during one-on-one? Because my experience of one-on-one may be very different experience from yours. And yeah, so you can cover maybe functional. How has it been? What are the challenges? You can also ask them like, okay, so any feedback for you as a manager? Probably that's also one thing that you can consider about, you know. And then the third thing is there anything that they want to raise up? Probably can be like, oh, you know, I find it really hard because I want to take care of my kids. I prefer working from home. And I think that's where you are able, you know, you take a stand of like creating a safe space for people to share. Mm-hmm. I guess that's, that's I can actually relate to one-on-one in that sense.
I'm taking down notes right now.
I hope so. Yeah, but if anyone have any like thoughts, feel free to also drop in the chat box.
Yeah, I mean, I really agree with Sarah a lot on like the whole one-on-one and that whole safe space, being able to share. I would say not intimate is not the right word, but share in that safe space, as much as you possibly can as an employee, and I think it helps a lot individually with the employees' overall well-being in general. And I think talking about well-being, I think right now well-being itself is more than just physical health. It goes all the way to mental, psychological, and things like that. So I have another sort of question and also a response from the members who are currently right now with us. So there is this message that was sent in that said employee recognition is crucial towards the morale of every employee in an organization. So no matter the position and job scope of an employee, it's important to award timely and appropriate recognition to them. This will lead to a workplace culture that is motivating and ambitious, right? So I just want to know your thoughts on do you think right now in this current landscape, like employees' idea of like recognition and being awarded for doing good work and showing work on time has shifted over the years? I mean, even based on your own personal experience as well. Yeah, maybe you could share a bit on that.
This is I wish to actually meet this person who submitted this thought. Like, I think it's so important. I guess it's been changing for sure, but I am not too sure that I don't think that people has changed drastically, because everyone's needs is still the same. You want to still have good salary, you still want to have good enough of acknowledgement, positive kind of encouragement. That one, it will not run away since like maybe 50 years ago, that sense. But I guess probably something different or change in this case would be COVID. So COVID kind of makes you reprioritize what you actually want in your life. And that's where probably the recognition might change a little on a case-to-case basis and also individual level. But I guess in the case of this, if you are looking at, award timely and appropriate recognition, it has to come down to a structure that the organization is trying to build. So if let's say you're in the HR or if you're in the leadership team, because I think that's where you can play a lot of influence in terms of, okay, so what are the best way to actually recognize our employees, and then how are we going to do that? So it's either some people will just do it very easily, team building day. It's like okay, one day off and then everyone go for fun. That is also one of recognition. You can also like say, you do really well this month, treat you to a dinner. But again, it comes down to an individual, because if I don't appreciate dinner, then, there's no point. It's like someone giving you a birthday present, but, like I don't need a lipstick, but you give me a lipstick, then there's no point, right? I guess right now, the strategy is really to cater and try to tailor to the individual's kind of appreciation way. You can also probably look at the love language, I guess. I think like one of the creative way could be love language, because like for me, I appreciate a lot about words of affirmation, and maybe words of affirmation is more than enough for me, and anything else probably is like a bonus. Yeah, but what about like Xiangming and Brian? Like, what do you think is the best way to recognize your effort that you've been doing in the company?
Right. So, well, there's two parts, right? Brian, I know you want to say something as well, but I'm gonna jump in here real quick.
No, I just feel like Sally is also like, she has so organized answers, and my head just like, what do I say? What do I say next? Go first.
I mean, it's an important question, because there's pre-COVID and current COVID, right? So I'm gonna be very truthful here, like completely honest. Pre-COVID, I was just looking at like what benefits we have. I think Sarah, you mentioned earlier that we were met in the same company. That company didn't really have much. It was just GP and health screening. And I joined that company when I was a fresh grad. So it was my first job as well. And the pay wasn't too, I mean, it's decent, but it wasn't like, very substantial. So having the option to kind of, shift some of the expenses when it comes to benefits, like we only had GP and screening, but that helped a little bit, right? So when joining companies, realistically that's something I see. But post like current pandemic, in terms of what I look for, work is very important as well. Having an area to grow, have a fulfilling work, I think that's very important, and that kind of aligns with one of the responses we had earlier about how we're not just doing it for a living. Yeah. What about you?
I think I'm aligned with Seng on the part where, a fulfilling job is very important. Like, I can't be doing something for the sake of just to get a paycheck. I have this belief, right, that we are here to do more than just pay our bills and just die, right? So whatever we do, we're gonna do with conviction, and always it has to have meaning to it. So when it comes to recognition, I think for myself, it's not so much of who wouldn't say no to extra money, right? Of course I would. But I think what I'm really looking for is really to me, recognition is having a really awesome team, and being able to work together with an awesome team and then grow together with the company and a good culture. For me, like textbook answer or whatever, but I really like this stuff. I appreciate this stuff a lot more than extra money. But still, I would take extra money. So, yeah.
So realistic.
There is two parts to this. There is the realistic part, and then there's the part where the more idealistic part of me, where that's what I appreciate.
But I mean, hey, we're just being honest, right?
This is a podcast. Just say whatever is on your mind.
Yeah, but actually, good question, Sarah. Because one of our responses we got from the pre-session form was that the person anonymous, but the person find it difficult to commute to work back and also back in office. So this person had a technical role, and he was like, you know what, I would really still prefer to work from home mode. As the people lead of Human Inc., have you seen a shift as well? Because you joined during pandemic, but have you seen a shift when it comes to perhaps the different industry in the current landscape? So what you mentioned earlier, the government kind is more traditional as opposed to Human Inc. that is a little bit more of a more progressive company.
Amazing question, and this is I would say this person is not alone in this whole market, so don't feel isolated just because I'm requesting this but not other people. Maybe sharing a personal experience. So I've been interviewing a lot of people, and one of the questions that when I ask them, so do you have any question for me, and then they will ask, so what is the working arrangement right now? I would say maybe 8 out of 10 interviews they will do that. And it shows how important it is at this time when it comes to flexibility, especially location of work. So if let's say, I will say that some organizations, they are still quite hung up on, having people be in the office. But I guess it's nothing wrong about that. It's just purely of what is the priority of the organization. If they want to create a culture because they are a startup, they want to meet each other, they just want to create more bond, that makes sense also. And some of them a bit more mature company, maybe they actually are quite comfortable for people to work around different kind of location. Some of them, because they kind of shrink their office because of COVID, they're trying to save costs, and that's why they are also a bit more open for people to actually work from home rather in the office. So it really depends on the company structure, the way that they want to go with. But of course, if let's say you have specific requests, I would strongly encourage you to actually talk to a manager, talk to the leadership team. Of course, see how open they are, see where they come from. And if this is not something that you would want to compromise, then maybe look for another opportunity. It's not encouraging you to leave the company, but I think everyone will respect your preference of life, because some of them maybe, I actually just recently spoke to one of the candidates, and he said that he wants to actually stay at home because he needs to babysit his young baby, and he would not want to actually bring it to nursery because the kids are not well taken care of from that kind of perspective, and that's nothing wrong about it. Right. So just, I think, be honest, be transparent in the conversation that you have with your team.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Sarah. Yeah, definitely totally agree with you. Some people are more productive at home, they have multiple hats to wear, more duties, and if it works, why not, right? So I guess the HRs out there in perhaps a more traditional companies can kind of take this as a tip and, kind of think about it, maybe that will actually work for your company right now.
I think maybe I also want to just add on. I also do have experienced some people have the fear of like, oh, if we are allowing people to do flexible working arrangement, what does it mean? Everyone is not going to see each other. Everything is virtual, but it's actually not that. You can actually have a step-by-step kind of progressive level in terms of, how do you welcome people back? So you can actually probably start off with, first 3 months, everyone come back once a week. And then the next 3 months, everyone comes back 2 days a week. Then you slowly manage the change, because I think everyone will need time to process the change and experience the transition. So it's not too drastic. Oh, I want everyone to come back every single day, like tomorrow itself, right? So I think people will just get shocked. People might not be happy, and then people might leave. That's not something that we want. There's also another execution level is, how do you then make people excited to come back to work? So that's where you can actually bring in like free lunches, you can bring in like free food, or like for us, there's one time you're like, oh, we buy bubble tea every Wednesday, then people will come back Wednesday. So you can create a little things to kind of like make that behavior that you actually want to see. It's nothing very difficult, but just slowly, yes.
Wow.
It's quite funny when she mentioned the free bubble tea. I heard Elise just let out a gasp. She was like, wow. And maybe you should think about it.
Just once a month,
Yeah. I'll take note and relay that back to my company. No, but realistically speaking, like I totally agree. You need a reason for people to look forward to, right? Like, of course, there's always Zoom, and like we also touched a little bit on this in our previous episode, where like the different like people like throw out parties, like birthday party, Christmas parties, everybody take turns, things like that. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, while you want to be a bit more, I guess, like step by step when it comes to implementing, you also want to keep in mind of reasons for people to return as well, right?
Yeah. But I just wanted to find out from Sarah, like, what's your preference, working from home or working in the office?
For me, it's both. So I'm an extrovert, so I draw energy from people around me. So that works for working from office, but I don't like driving. So I drive in KL, and KL these days, the traffic is so horrible. You could imagine if let's say from the office to home, I can take like less than half an hour if that's without traffic. But with traffic this day, 1 hour or 1 hour and 10 minutes. So with that, I would not want to work from office. So it depends on days. For me, it will be 2 to 3 days. That's really nice. A week in the office. Yeah. What about yourself, like Xiangming and Brian?
Well, I'll let Brian go first.
Okay. For myself, I think I like to work in the office. I feel like being kind of like, I said this before in the last episode, but I feel like working from home kind of blurs the lines, because my personal space is where I like to hang out and chill. And then when work gets into play, it kind of like gets very messy, and I can't figure out whether I'm at work or I'm at home. When I'm thinking about work, that doesn't make any sense. It's not right. So I kind of prefer the office.
Yeah, I prefer the hybrid. I like a change of environment. Sometimes you want to be a little bit more focused. Home works great for that. But I get it. Like in the previous session, I also mentioned that for me, my table is just right there. So when I wake up, I'll just go there, and there's no separations. It's very hard to separate work and I guess your home space from now on. But yeah, so I prefer hybrid. It's always good to also see the colleagues as well, and kind of like have our chit chats here and there. It helps with discussion as well.
Great to see Xiangming all the time.
Yeah. As well. No, but it helps with like, let's say if there's any issues or discussion you want to make, it's so much easier as compared to using Zoom, right? Yes. So I presume because you guys have a lot of nationalities, you guys use Zoom a lot as well.
Yes. Yeah, correct. Yeah, we will like, if you want to have Zoom, you would like, oh, hi, can I have a call with you in half an hour? But if you're in the office, hi, can I talk to you like for 5 minutes, and you just drag the person out to the corridor. That was actually quite fun.
Yeah, it's always good to also have a face, right, to the Slack. Like, or we use like a company communication. so much easier, so much better, and you actually collaborate better after that as well. So yeah. Well, thanks, Sarah, for answering our questions, and perhaps we'll open the floor to our attendees right now, both on the Zoom right now as well as on Facebook. So we'll open the floor for you guys to ask some questions. Feel free to put it in the Q&A function if you're looking at Zoom right now, or you can just simply raise your hand. We'll be happy to hear your question. Or you can just put it in the chat box over here, whichever method works for you. For those tuning in from Facebook, you can put in your questions in the comments below, and our helpful intern over here, Elise, will be porting some of the questions that you have from Facebook over for Sarah to answer. So perhaps let's get the ball rolling. Let's ask Sarah some questions for the Q&As to come in. So one of the questions that we actually received from the pre-session form again is, so this is not really like, okay, so this is a good question actually. The question is, a good leader motivates employees to do better. True or false?
Wow, yes, of course. Yeah, I think, I don't know what else to answer with this. Yes, it's important, and then it's definitely, a good influence, because I think in the workspace, you spend so much time in the workspace, sometimes more than 10 hours if you are so intense, and that's the person that you actually spend a lot of time with. So yeah, whatever the person is, your manager is actually doing for you, or leader doing for you, is actually very important.
All right, thanks, Sarah. So we'll probably just wait for some of the questions to come in. Another question that we had is finding out how to solve issues for problems encountered at work. So do you have any suggestions on how people can collaborate a little bit better as well?
I would typically ask the person, what's the current way that you are going about when it comes to collaboration? Because is it because of your role? That's the nature, you are working kind of like a solo. Is it from that kind of angle? Or was it because, you're a bit shy, that you don't really dare to actually reach out to people that you're not familiar with, or either cross-functional kind of relationship? So I guess it really depends on the angle. If, let's say, you are a bit on silo, the first scenario, you might actually want to find projects that you are able to actually work with other people. Maybe some initiative from yourself will be really nice if that's something that you're looking for. The second one is shy. Probably you can find a very close buddy in your organization to pair you both up, to say that, hey, maybe let's find someone new to actually go for lunch. And probably that's where you can get to know each other better, because I guess in the workspace there's also a lot of different kind of personality. Got extroverts, got introvert. You can also play some MBTI to get to know each other's MBTI, how people gel together. That will be really fun.
Is it the personality test?
Yeah, the personality test.
We've done it before.
Yeah, we've done it before. That's actually a good actually, because how the personality goes, you can kind of pair people up for perhaps some projects and things like that. Then
you can also maybe have a 2-hour session with all the teams in, let's say, customer success team, to plot out everyone what is your MBTI, and then what triggers you, what makes you happy when it comes to building relationship. You can do that too.
Yeah, that's actually a good advice. We actually have a question from Facebook. Any golden nuggets to manage the different generations in the office?
Oh, I love this question. So maybe in my company at the moment, our average age is actually really young. I would say it's about 30 years old. So would be quite young. However, I also do have some extremes, which is some of our principal is about 40, 50 years old. I would say that really number one is really understanding their needs. Where are they in their life? Because if they are old, doesn't mean that all of them, they will need the same thing. Some of them they probably have a little more kids. So then their benefits that we need to look into will be very different, very family oriented. Probably like the work-life balance will means a lot more to them because they say, I want to put my kids back to sleep at this hour. So I will need like a complete shutdown by 8 p.m., for example. So yeah, just so really understanding their needs. And then I think on the other spectrum, which is the younger folks, we do have a lot. So for them, because they came out from the university and their university was throughout virtual because of the COVID. So for them, they were really excited to get to know people. And so having a lot more engagement kind of activity initiative will make them really excited. Then some of them, they also started to get their first house, get their first car. They kind of having the life transition, and that's where they probably will be looking for more money. Then it comes down to like their performance. Yeah.
Oh, that's actually, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I didn't always thought like I always thought that those like I guess also because I'm young on the younger side, but those who are a little bit older, they would prefer to go back to office. But actually, yeah, you're right. Perhaps they have.
A little older. I am a little older than you.
I looked at you when I said a little older.
You say a little older, eh?
But I wouldn't really imagine. Oh yeah, actually they would prefer to be at home and things like that.
But I feel like depending on where you are in life right now, your requirements change. Like I might be a little older than you, but I'm not in that transition phase in life where I'm or buying a house. So I guess for me, my expectations would differ a lot from I guess people around my age group. Yeah,
that's true.
Exactly. Yeah. So in a way, you can generalize the age group, but at the same time, you can't because everyone going through very different times. So some of them maybe, once they graduated, then they get married, and that's where they start to buy a house. Then their expenses goes up a lot more, and then they will start to look for that. I need a spouse insurance, I need a child insurance. Even though they are super young, but they need all this thing as the similar like the ones that's a bit more mature kind of age group.
Yeah. I guess this also flow back to what you said earlier. But firstly, I hope you answer a question on Facebook about how to manage different generations in the office. But I guess that also goes back to what you said earlier about having a more personalized approach in terms of managing your employees or like kind of building that company culture to understand everyone a little bit more and to see what's the best way for a company to work as well.
I guess no way that a company can kind of like run with just like how I say a very general kind of like structure anymore. Like it really has to be you kind of have to break it down into little subsets of different demographics and different ages, different quality of life and things like that. Yeah. So there's no one hard and fast rule for an employee to actually develop a good culture. I think it's something where they need to know how to tackle different types of or different groups of people, I would say.
Yeah. There's also a story that I recently listened to. I heard, and this is actually a really big company in Malaysia. And so what they did is so every single time that people actually go to the office, they collect points, and then they will actually change the points into something. So it can be a traveling voucher. Okay, can be like leaves. They can even sell off their leaves if they don't finish their leave because some people just love working so much and then they just want money. So like Brian, so maybe this worked for you. Some of them, like maybe they change up into something else that fits to their kind of lifestyle. I guess that's actually an inspiration. But of course, the underlying factor for HR and also maybe the bosses will be money, the cost. Like how much cost are you actually willing to invest in this? Because maybe it might be easier for the large companies because they have the volume, but small companies like myself will be a bit difficult because we can't negotiate with the vendor. Like, hey, can you give us kind of like flexible benefits? Because we are so small, we don't have any negotiation power, right?
That's true. We actually, not to self-plug for Mednefits, but we actually do have a few customers asking us how to restructure their benefits so that they can achieve what you say, like a cost-efficient benefit, but also providing more for the employees especially for those in different generations, right?
Mm.
Oh, the comment came in from the Facebook question. So the person who asked that question earlier about the different generations said, solid, that's an idea. So hopefully he will be able to input that into his company as well. So thanks, Sarah, for your golden nugget on that.
Oh, no problem. I'm excited for the execution and then we know how it goes. Amazing.
So actually there is a way for you guys in Facebook and also those tuning in to actually connect with Human Inc. further. So Sarah, we will be putting Sarah's contact in our follow-up as well. Ways you can actually like reach out to Sarah or Human Inc. for collaborations, or perhaps if you need the expertise as well. And you can simply let us know. So actually we looking at the time, perhaps we can actually put out our poll right here. And so we actually have a poll for you guys to help us fill in. And in that poll, you'll actually be able to see a way on how you can let us know you want to connect with Sarah over here, or if perhaps you would like to also implement some flexible benefits for your company, like what Sarah mentioned earlier, kind of taking care of different generations of employees. Feel free to let us know as well in the poll. And after the poll is completed and after today's session, we'll be able to reach out to all of you guys and connect you guys up with Sarah over here. So and also Sarah has put in her in LinkedIn over here, so feel free to connect with her and click that little follow button. So yeah, while everyone's filling up the poll, thank you so much again for joining us today, Sarah. We hope you stay safe in KL. And do you have any closing words for attendees over here and on Facebook?
No, I think everyone actually plays a part in shaping the culture in the company, regardless, which role you are, what level you are. So yeah, just do your part and then, voice out your needs. And then I think people will actually really appreciate that kind of feedback. Yeah, and also like plug in here, really a proud customer of like Mednefits. They cater so much things actually. So yeah, just really check it out, and also think about different ways to actually engage with your employees through employee benefits.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And plug in for Sarah as well. If you're looking for an innovative way for your team to come up with product ideas, how to work better as a team as well, feel free to hit Sarah up. Human Inc. has amazing teams to help you guys and improve the way you guys work. All right. So thank you, everyone. We'll end the session for today. If you would like to connect with us to be our next Recharge guest, feel free to let us know as well in the poll, or you can connect with us via Mednefits, and we'll be happy to talk to you guys and feature you guys as well. So thanks again, Sarah, and thanks everyone for joining us on Facebook and on Zoom. And we hope you have an amazing weekend ahead. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.
Bye.